All of you, each one of you are an agent of change. Each one of you can make the difference. And each one of you in the collectiveness of a movement like 1 million women are part of the solution.
Hi, this is Natalie Isaacs, founder of 1 Million Women, and I just came back from COP28. It's the big climate change conference. It was in Dubai, and it's where, the countries of the world come together to focus on literally the biggest issue that is facing humanity, and that is climate change. And this year, I wanted to share with you the voices of some of the extraordinary women who are at these COPs, who are on the front line of climate change, who are around the negotiating table. I wanted to bring you in and hear their insights and their hopes and the work that they're doing.
My name is Osprey, Orielle Lake, and I am the founder and executive director of the Women's Earth and Climate Action Network, or WECAN. I think what's really important about coming to the climate talks, which we've been doing for over a decade, is that I think it's really important as governments are meeting that civil society is here and our voices are heard. We are in a climate crisis, it's accelerating, and it's absolutely vital that women's leadership and women's knowledge and our analysis as feminists is here. And so for them to be meeting and making decisions at this level, for governments to be meeting and talking about all of our future, it's essential that we're here to ensure that climate justice is represented, that women are represented, Indigenous people are represented, and what we think is important is part of the discourse, or we're going to see business as usual, which is taking us down a road of absolute destruction.
Hello, it's me again, Tishiko King, Tish like a fish, and I'm a proud Kukulug woman from Kukugal Nation from the island of Masig, Zenith, known as the Torres Strait Islands. I also have blood connections, Barugalug, to the Temu clan from the Western Island group. It's been in the media how this COP is quite contentious because it's been led by a presidency who is also a fossil fuel executive. It's so crazy because then they've been really ambitious about tripling renewable energies in order for a just transition. But we need to actually reflect on, okay, firstly, if you're going to transition, making sure that we don't leave anyone behind, like our First Nations communities, women, disability folks, young people. And when you say you want to have these ambitious goals for energy about, tripling renewable infrastructures, that also means not continuing to have fossil fuel projects.
My name is Rachel Kyte, and I'm unfortunately a veteran of COPs. COPs bring lots of conflicted emotions for me because on the one hand we're trying to drive forward action which requires commitment, it requires agreement, it requires governments, companies, communities making pledges, and then you've got to hold them accountable for those pledges, and so you've got this constant ratcheting up across a whole phalanx of issues, from clean air to clean water to methane to emissions from rice and the way we grow rice. I mean, you name it, it's here at the COP. At the same time, we're sitting at the moment under a tree, but in the baking hot desert of the Gulf with enormous natural gas terminals all around us with huge gas flaring going on as you get on the metro to come here. And the wealth of the oil and gas fields of the Gulf is on display. And we need that wealth to now invest in a green future, but it has to do it with integrity. We can't continue to burn fossil fuels and then take the profits of those fossil fuels and invest them for green energy. It doesn't make sense. And so all of that conflicting emotion is alive in us.
Hi everyone, my name's Linh Do, and I am here as the board chair of Climate Action Network Australia. One of the reasons why I'm here is definitely on the back of the Australian government's interest in potentially hosting one of these events in the future, so in 2026, if we're successful with our bid. And I guess I have a really big interest and personal passion, but then, it fits in with my work as well around what does that mean for engagement and access? How do we ensure that if this conference has the opportunity to come to Australia, that we host it with the Pacific, we do that in a meaningful and genuine way? What does it look like for every Australian to engage in some way, shape or form? Because climate, unfortunately, is one of those issues that is either already impacting a huge number of people, or eventually we'll get to that point. It's just a matter of time.
I'm Farhana Yamin. I'm a climate lawyer. I was actually responsible for the first ever gender decision taken at this COP, which was back in 2001 when I was pregnant. So for me, women's voices, their equality, their way of looking at the world is absolutely vital. So yeah, I hope that we get more balanced representation at every level. Women are here in full force, but not at the higher echelons of power. So there are not as many heads of delegation that are women as there should be. And we see, especially in the Middle East here, there's a lot of entrenched patriarchal practices and power.
So my name is Sharon. I am here to really expand the capacity of catalytic leaders, many of whom are women. And the reason for that is because many of the most important deals in history, including the Paris Agreement, but many others too, have benefited from the leadership of coordinated, cooperative networks of women. Women seem to do more yet claim less. We seem to be far more capable of cooperating both from the heart and the head. And thirdly, women seem more capable of holding on to two realities at the same time. On the one hand, there is deep grief and immense frustration that we are literally at the final hour of averting catastrophic climate impacts. But on the other hand, we are also capable of seeing the potential and turning things around in ways that have always been transformational in history, and I'm hoping will be this time round.
Hi, I'm Laalitya Acharya. I am a third year at Columbia studying biomedical engineering and political science. So I think especially right now we're seeing the long-lasting effects of the climate crisis, not in terms of the future, but in terms of the now. Up until now, in terms of, climate change, we were like, it's going to happen in 20 years, it's going to affect our kids and our grandkids. That's no longer the case. It is the now, and it is the world that I, as a young person, not only am going to inherit, but am already inheriting. And I think that's why it's so critical, and that's why I wanted to be at this COP specifically, to represent how we are a younger generation, we are Generation Z, but we are coming into adulthood and we are going to make our voices heard in how climate change, how water efficacy, and how policy really needs to be integrated to solve all of these problems.
My name is Joan Namaggwa, and I'm a climate activist as well as a women and girls' rights and children's rights activist from Kampala, Uganda, working with the TAD Foundation. We are here to push for change. We are here to raise our voices as young people to our leaders because they have the power to effect change. What we can do mostly in our positions as young people is tell our leaders what needs to be done where they cannot reach. But since they are in power and they can effect change in various aspects, be it climate justice, be it gender, we come here to show our voices, to specify the issues that we face in our different communities and hoping that they can do something about it. So our presence here means a lot, and it shows how dedicated we are to the work we do and how serious we are about wanting a positive change in the world.
And that's it. Women are here from every corner of the planet, and we need our collective power. We need our collective voice. We need more women around the negotiating table, and the more women that are here, the greater the solutions and the greater our voice will be.
Well, my name is Lorena Aguilar. I'm the Executive Director of the Kashak Institute. I lose hope sometimes when I see that this year was the hottest year and that the scenarios that we were expecting for 2035 are happening right now. I lose hope, but I get it back from them, and that we're gonna have to continue pushing, but it's a call for those emitters. And that's where the power needs to come from. I mean, we can scream and shout, but if they don't cut their emissions and if they don't make commitments at the long term, this planet is going nowhere.
My name is Dessima Williams. I come from Grenada. I entered the process in 2009. I support rural children attending secondary school and beyond. Women's experiences of climate change differ according to region, according to class, according to country, but almost always we generally are left out, and the burden of keeping society going and especially responding adequately in times of crisis like hurricanes, and so that falls to women. And we have seen in Grenada and in the Caribbean as a whole many hurricanes, and in all instances women have the responsibility for the children and the in-laws and the older relatives and so on.
My name is Sandra Guzman. I'm from Mexico. I'm the General Director of the Climate Finance Group for Latin America and the Caribbean. We also want to see more active from developing countries, no? And of course, I don't want to put all developing countries in the same mix, no? Because you have countries that really are so in debt, they cannot do a lot of work because they are struggling a lot, smaller countries. But I'm talking more about those economies that can do something more meaningful, like Brazil, Mexico, India, China, South Africa. And they are, in a way, starting to do things, starting to change things.
So I'm Liane Schalatek, and I work for an organization called the Heinrich Böll Foundation. Some of it was a little bit disappointing. And I tell you what was disappointing. So for example, we really hoped to have a fund that gets new thinking, new structures, puts community in the driving seat. So for example, we wanted to have a board seat for communities, for affected local communities, for women, for indigenous peoples. We did not get that. We called very strongly for a clear mechanism within that fund that would allow local communities to basically get small grants, right? Say, we have a great idea. We really need that to address needs that we have in our community. Can you give me a smaller amount of money, 50,000, 100,000, 200,000? We'll make it work. We have a lot of verbal commitment to actually work with local communities, but we don't see yet that pass, the direct financing pass to local communities.
I think what's equally important coming to these COPs, and now this is my 7th COP, is the connections that you make with other women. Because we all have our own focus, but there is an amazing opportunity for collaboration. You know that you're not alone in this.
Hello everyone, my name is Clare Nassanga, a climate activist and a women and girls' rights activist from Kampala, Uganda. My voice to the young women and girls out there is that no action is too small. There is no voice that is too small. Whatever we do in this world impacts a life. Whatever action you do saves a life. Whatever you do, so we can all come together around the world. We are in this together. We are not alone. And when we come together and do these small things that we are doing, it's actually going to grow into something big. It's going to become a bigger mountain. When you add the actions that you're doing, protecting the environment, reminding women of their rights, standing up for girls, it all sums up into things that actually make the world a better planet for women and girls. So any action you do is something that is good. Nothing is too small. Yeah.
Women are key to their families, their communities. They're at the heart of so many different relationships. They're important economically. They make a lot of decisions in their own households. And as women, we are understanding, the power of collective responsibility as well. They're great at taking risks. There's umpteen studies that show boards, for example, that have more women tend to take greater risks, but also have a more positive and healthier environment. And I feel that passionately I've worked alongside with and for women.
The only way that we can ensure that women are represented is to show up in these spaces and share our solutions and share our analysis. And one thing that we know from this COP is that there are 133 governments being represented at this particular COP, and only 15 of the heads of state are women. Only 15. And yet we know from all of the work that you do, that we do, that women are leading solutions, whether it's reforestation or leadership on how we need to have better climate policies, everything from the grassroots movements to the top level of leadership.
The final thing I'm going to say about a COP is I get to see Nat. We see each other once a year, maybe, at a COP, and it is the fierce passion and the honest integrity of somebody else who's working so hard to make the world a better place that just makes me feel like I can be better and that I can do better.
Thank you to all the amazing women at COP28 who shared their stories and their insights with us. A big thank you to General Experiments for collaborating with 1 Million Women on this audio feature. And thank you for tuning in.